Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares with economic and financial news. Coming up, workers near retirement and those in labor-intensive jobs get an upgrade. And as gentrification overtakes southern Tel Aviv, urban industries diminish. First, the headlines. China saw its biggest market loss in 5 years after the Shanghai Composite Index surpassed 3,000 for the first time since 2011. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index slumped 5.4% on Tuesday to record its biggest fall since 2009. Investors scurried, fearing policies aimed at cutting down on debt, which could hold back growth if they choke off credit to industries such as steel and cement. Beijing is widely expected to lower the 2015 growth target to 7% from the current 7.5%. But the outlook for Chinese equity remains bullish, following the past month's stock market boom with record highs across the board. The International Monetary Fund warned that Ukraine was at risk of financial collapse if a shortfall in its bailout is not filled. In addition to a $17 billion rescue fund announced in April, the IMF announced a $15 billion shortfall in its bailout for war-torn Ukraine. The gap results from a 7% contraction in Ukraine's gross domestic product and a collapse in exports to Russia, its biggest trading partner. Since the bailout program began in April, Ukraine has received $8.2 billion in funding from the IMF and other international creditors. A new green climate fund reached a UN goal of $10 billion, helped by a surprise donation from Australia. The fund aims to help poor nations cut their greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to climate change, which has worsened desertification and led to rising sea levels. Australia pledged $166 million and Belgium $64 million. China said rich countries were not working fast enough to meet a broader goal of providing $100 billion a year by 2020 to help the poor cope.
We breached the $10 billion equivalent in terms of pledged amounts. So if we look at the amounts that were pledged for the fund since the start of this resource mobilization exercise 5 months ago, we stand at $10.14 billion equivalent.
The UN Refugee Agency said Western governments had heeded a call to take in more Syrian refugees, offering more than 100,000 places in the coming months. UNHCR aims to resettle 10% of refugees, or 300,000 Syrians, outside the region, of which 130,000 by the end of 2016. 62,000 places have already been pledged by countries such as Germany and Sweden. More than 3.2 million Syrians have registered as refugees in the region, with Lebanon, Jordan, and Turkey housing the majority.
There are 2 European countries that have indeed represented the most clear demonstration of solidarity with the Syrian refugees. It's Sweden and Germany. And so it's perfectly normal that both Sweden and Germany ask other European countries to express the same kind of solidarity.
As the global workforce ages, few organizations are prepared for the loss of knowledge and experience. Israel's Magalim Fund for workers in grueling professions helps people near retirement age adapt to the changing work environment and helps upgrade those forced to leave labor-intensive jobs. We're joined at the Globe's Israel Business Conference, Magalim's chairwoman, Ms. Yafa Vygotsky. We're joined now at the Global Business Conference by Yafa Vygotsky from Magalim, a fund that deals with retirement workers or workers past retirement age and workers in labor-intensive jobs and helps upgrade them. Yafa, thanks for joining us.
Thank you too.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Magalim does with workers?
Magalim essentially comes to solve a very important Israeli social economic problem by caring for workers from labor-intensive professions. meaning the physical conditions of the job lead to significant exhaustion. Upgrading them through professional training and career change courses to keep them employed, if in the organization or industry they come from, or different workplaces.
What number of people are we talking about? What percentage of the Israeli population is in that kind of situation?
We are speaking about 25% of workers in Israel, mostly from the periphery in the north and the south. And in the past 2 years, 2013 and 14, we trained more than 12,000 workers. We intend to continue this next year. It turns out the demand is very, very high.
And you're a government-linked fund. I mean, what kind of funds are there actually for this type of work?
The fund was established when the finance minister at the time, Mr. Binyamin Netanyahu, wanted to delay the retirement age for men from 65 to 67 and for women from 60 to 62. He needed the employers and the workers' union to accept it, and they agreed on the condition that this kind of fund will be established and fully funded by the government. About 600 million shekels were invested. The negotiations took time, and the fund started working in 2012.
What in your mind is a bigger threat to the Israeli economy? The relatively low productivity in terms of workers, many workers, for example, in the Orthodox sector of society, in the Arab sector of society that don't have work? Or is it a matter of increased inequality that we've seen over the past couple of years because of the really high prices? The real estate is unaffordable for a lot of people. Is it increased corruption, or is it lack of political stability? What is the biggest issue here?
I have no doubt that the decline in workers' productivity, stagnation in market growth, and growing inequality in Israeli society is what threatens the Israeli economy.
Okay, well, Yafa Vygotsky from Magalim, thank you very much for joining us at Globes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, too.
More than a fifth of the world's population will be over 60 in a little over 30 years. And as fewer students can afford soaring rent, the following report looks at an innovative solution that helps both the world's aging population as well as its gradually poorer youth.
Anton is 85 years old, but he's a dab hand on Facebook, thanks to Urian, who's 4 times younger than him. Urian lives with Anton in this care home in Deventer in the eastern Netherlands. It's part of a unique project run by Humanitas. Urian gets free lodgings in return for 30 hours of work a month, and today he's teaching about the internet.
He's a good teacher. He does it well. I'm confident doing a number of things, but he has some great tips. I read the paper, play games, check and send emails.
With rents soaring, it's a financially viable solution which brings young and old people together. There are 5 other students like Urian working with the home's 160 residents. With no curfew for the students, they can come and go as they please.
I came home late once and made quite a lot of noise closing the door, which woke my neighbour up. But you know, it only happened once. I don't do it all the time. Like any good neighbour, I apologised and it's never happened again.
The students don't replace professional carers, but rather bolster the existing workforce. They prepare dinner, organise workshops, chat with residents and do the shopping.
The student has a very different relationship with the elderly people here compared with professional carers. It's an extra person who looks out for people and can quickly recognize if something is not okay, if someone needs more attention.
The idea has resonated in a country where many people do voluntary work, and other retirement homes are reportedly coming up with their own variations on the theme.
I work from the principle that when you're 96 years old with a knee problem, well, the knee isn't going to get any better. The doctors can't do much, but what we can do is create an environment where you forget about the painful knee.
With With the UN forecasting that by 2050 more than 20% of the world's population will be over 60, there's more need than ever to bridge the generation gap.
And we go back to Israel, the land of milk and bread, with a story of a wheat mill in southern Tel Aviv where factories, workshops and residential spaces coexist. But as gentrification continues, this urban industry may have to make way for apartments as Tel Avivniks gradually move south in search of cheaper real estate.
Here in the South Tel Aviv neighborhood of Florentine, factories, workshops and residential spaces have intermingled for decades. Though the young and hip have largely taken over here, the Tachanot Israeliot wheat mill has been standing here in the heart of the neighborhood since 1949, according to Jacob Kobi Poltorak, the owner and general manager. Kobi began working here as a kid when his grandfather was one of the owners.
My grandfather and his partner, they are Holocaust survivor, and they bought it from him at 62. At 2010, I bought with my partner. From all the other families, was 7 families here.
The company serves 350 customers throughout the country, but their wheat comes from all over the world, including the US, Germany, Eastern Europe, and Israel. Kobi says that the reason for the international fair is that Israel is too small to be its own breadbasket with just 10% of the necessary wheat to feed itself.
You need a huge fields of wheat. In the United States, you can find a state that's growing wheat in the size of Israel.
The company produces 65,000 tons a year. With 40 people on the floor daily and 2 overnight workers to monitor the process, the mill is constantly moving. And there's a sense of commitment to this place. Doron Brown, the sales manager, revels in the work he's been doing for 15 years.
I love to be in connection with the people. And it's helped me to sell. If I connect you and I thought about you and what you needed, so it's very easy for me to sell you.
And Abdul Ahman Farjala, a Palestinian worker, travels from his home in Kfar Idna near Hebron through an Israeli checkpoint between the West Bank and Israel to work here.
Not every morning, 3 times a week. I've been working here for more than 30 years. It's a beautiful place.
The mill is full of charm with wood floors, ancient computers, and a vertical processing system. It's a monument to the possibility of urban industry. But Kobi says that this will become condos and they'll move the operation to Ashkelon.
If you can find a new projects in this area for young people to live, something very good.
It may be that this kind of urban operation is a relic of the past and that working class people will continue to be pushed out of work and residency as gentrification takes hold here. For the next few years, though, this mill in the heart of South Tel Aviv will keep on churning.
And as earnings season is on our doorstep, Carly Forster from financial analytics firm TipRanks joins us now for a look at the markets. Ms. Forster, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so which companies are we looking at today?
All right, well, we're going to look at Lululemon, Adobe, and Radio Shack, who are all set to announce their earnings reports tomorrow. So let's start with Lululemon. They're going to report their third quarter earnings report tomorrow before the market opens. They're expected to post 38 cents earnings per share, down from 45 cents the same quarter last year. Now, Lululemon was the subject of controversy a little earlier this year when they had to recall a massive amount of yoga pants for being too see-through. In addition, they received negative attention when the founder, Chip Wilson, made some controversial comments when he stepped down as CEO, and he stole half of his stock position. However, Lululemon's become one of the fastest-growing retail companies today, growing 17% just this month. They're even positioned to dominate the health and wellness industry, which is booming right now.
If anything, maybe those comments actually, were good for their marketing.
Now that he left, yeah, definitely. Okay. So new management has been diligently working to improve the company's image, their performance, and their overall reputation, and analysts believe that this is soon going to pay off.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, so next we have Adobe, who's set to announce their fourth quarter earnings report and fiscal full year report tomorrow before the market opens. Now, they're expected to post 17 cents earnings per share, down from 18 the same quarter a year prior. Now, on Cyber Monday, Adobe raked in roughly $2.65 billion in revenue.
Wow.
Just from its online store. And that marked a 16% increase on a year-over-year basis. Now, between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday, they brought in $9.6 billion, marking a 20% increase on a year-over-year basis. And for the whole season, from November 1st to December 1st, they raked in a grand total of $37.9 billion, marking a 14% increase on a year-over-year basis.
It's really incredible. I mean, what were they selling? I mean, what were people buying?
Photoshop, the Photoshop software. They actually just offered a slew of new applications, too, for iPad users to connect on their Creative Cloud service, which is pretty great.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and so lastly, we have Radio Shack, who is set to announce their third quarter earnings report tomorrow before the market opens. Now, they're expected to post a loss of $1.03 a share, which is actually higher than last year when they posted a loss of $1.09 a share. However, Radio Shack has been on the rocks this year, and the only thing keeping them afloat was a $250 million investment from lender Salus Capital. But as of recently, the relationship between the two companies has turned sour right before the crucial holiday season, threatening Radio Shack's overall operations and not helping them to avoid bankruptcy. Now, earlier this year, Salus Capital rejected Radio Shack's proposal to close 1,100 of its stores, and they were only able to close 200 of its stores.
Ms. Forster, we're going to have to go. Thank you so very much for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me.
That is the end of The Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic news. Thanks for watching, and join us again tomorrow.